What's up, guys? Brian Wilson here. Jiu Jitsu Unraveled episode. Going to get started for you here in a moment here in the old studio. But unfortunately, this episode kind of had to start. It started recording like 15 minutes after we had started talking for some reason. This is with Matt Vernon of Primate Jiu Jitsu. Some things that we talked about that did not appear on the episode, sadly, and hopefully maybe I can have another podcast with Matt and or his wife Kendall in the future. But we're talking about just the dynamic they have that owning a gym together, right? Running a gym together. His wife's a purple belt. They just had their first child. Talked about that a little bit. And also his wife has put a lot of research into starting the Spats company, Gaidama, Gaidama. But we talked a little bit about that. Spats company for women has all of these features with the waistband, and them not being see-through and just the way they're stitched together that are really good for women. So check that out. And we kind of come in on the episode and start recording when he and I are talking about Clay Mayfield, a former guest that was on the podcast that both Matt and I have had matches against in tournaments. And we kind of come in talking about judo for jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. So apologies for that not recording. Not sure what the issue is. I've had this happen one other time, and knock on wood, was just talking about it a couple of episodes ago, back, how it had happened. But hopefully we get that figured out and it doesn't happen in the future. Apologies for what we missed, but still a great talk with Matt about takedowns, throws, leg attacks, controversial match that he was in due to someone not tapping. We did a screen share breakdown on that. So enjoy the episode, guys. Again, apologies for it cutting in kind of abruptly. Keep tuning in. I'm going to keep bringing as many awesome guests on the show as possible from all walks of life. And thank you for watching the show.
I vowed that I was going to learn judo. So I was on when I learned that I really suck at something, I always try to make it a point to start trying to be good at that, that area. And man, whenever Clay threw me, I was on that mission, like I said. So I started trying to learn judo and ended up getting a judo coach and been practicing it like weekly ever since. So I've had a judo class at my gym ever since I've had the gym started. And I was just been practicing on my own. Before I started my gym, though, I was basically just learning judo on my own. I got to where my goal when I first started was, I just want to be able to one day be able to do a standing seyanagi. I just want to be able to throw somebody over my shoulder. That was like my ultimate goal, right? And I remember when I was practicing back when I was a brown belt, I hit my first live rolling standing seyanagi, and it was the best feeling ever. So it's like been such a rewarding process because, man, takedowns are hard to practice and a lot of people avoid them. And judo is really, judo and wrestling are both really hard and hard on the body. And man, I just took the time to, just to do it. And I was so happy when I started getting good at it. And now I'm not, I'm not the best, but I definitely am competent standing and with throws and with wrestling. And so that was like a huge goal of mine. I've always wanted to be super well-rounded. So yeah, I'm glad I did it.
Nice. Yeah, man. And like, that's what, like when I was doing jiu-jitsu, I did not wrestle in high school. And I just like noticed one day that I was a blue belt and I had no takedown ability. Like I knew a couple of things, but that's when I decided to like really dedicate myself to like learning the takedown game. Started studying judo. How do you do judo at your gym? You just do like a traditional judo class? You do judo ranks or what?
No, it's basically a takedown class. We alternate gi and no gi, so it's basically just a takedown class because I try to tailor it to jiu-jitsu competitions. So it's not like a traditional judo class where we do a lot of the things that judo class would do to learn the throws, because you got to practice uchikomi and things like that to get good at the mechanics and to get good at your kazushi. but it's really tailored to jujitsu competition. So very rarely will I show like a technique that won't work in a jujitsu or won't put you in a bad spot in jujitsu.
Mm-hmm.
We do seonagis where you turn your back and drop seonagis and stuff. I think those are good techniques, but some techniques, I wouldn't suggest, I wouldn't spend the time really learning for jujitsu, like, some makikomis, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
I don't want to expose my back too much because the rules are different. I'm not going to win if I fully commit and throw you, and turtling up doesn't help me in jujitsu. So some
Yeah.
throws we stay away from, but keep it basic. And but yeah, we practice alternating wrestling and judo at the gym, once a week.
That's nice. Yeah. Yeah, that's something like the makikomis are a great example. Also, it's makikomi or a seo. Like I noticed, like a lot of people will go for like a wazari, where they like try and get you down on one shoulder. And for whatever reason, I've gone with a lot of judo guys, and they'll try and hit me with a certain throw, and I go straight into a bow and arrow choke on them.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and it's usually like a Soto makikomi or something like that. And it's just like you get the back, your shoulder hits first, so they get a half a point in judo.
Yeah.
But that's one thing that's definitely always I've been noticing.
Always give a disclaimer when I teach a seonagi, drop seonagi, or I'm like, you have to get really good at this before you try this in a competition, because if you fail, you're going to get your back taken. You're going to get choked out. So yeah, if you set it up right, some of those throws can be pretty useful. But man, if you're bad at them and you try them, you can really put yourself in a bad spot.
Yeah, totally get what you're saying there. So another thing, man, that I've definitely seen you doing that, like I like noticing, like in practitioners or whoever, like, oh, hey, not everybody does that. And then I like always remark on it because like so many guys stereotypically, less so than usual, avoid like takedown game. It's jiu-jitsu, I'm pull guard or whatever, right? You just don't see it. I think that's less of a problem before, but another thing is leg locks.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like you've had a lot of success in competition with leg locks. When did you start studying leg attacks?
Man, you know what's funny about leg attacks is I don't really think I'm that good at leg attacks in a grand scheme of things. It's funny that I've won some tournaments with leg locks, but man, AGF has always been a place when I go compete at AGF, and when I really compete in general, I usually just do AGF quite a bit because competition for me is more of a place for me I'm not like trying to prove I'm the best, I'm like really just trying to work on my composure and executing techniques under stress, and just getting that experience of like a real hard fight, So man, a lot of the times when I'm out at competitions, I'm trying to improve on something when I go. So it was funny. I didn't start leg locks until I was late brown belt, black belt. I lost to a couple heel hooks in a competition, right when heel hooks started becoming the thing. And just a few heel hook losses will make you be like, all right, okay, I suck. And that's another point where I was like, man, I really suck at this. So I really started diving into it. And for a while, I obsessed over just doing leg locks and learning how to go through the positions and control all the different ashiguramis, and trying to learn all the Danaher leg lock system. And before Danaher put out his official leg lock DVD, I kind of had pieced together his system based off competition footage from his students. So I had like a rudimentary leg lock system type of a thing I was already kind of teaching at my gym to the beginners, just it's like a real beginner version of it. And just kind of to get people to flow through the different ashiguramis and learn that once the defense starts to come in, you can go to a next position and keep your partner in trouble and advance and eventually end up in a, like a honey hole or something at the end or somewhere where you can get a strong finish and not a lot of defense. So I was really focused on his competition footage. And eventually when he put out that DVD, then I was like, oh, now I can really like get the legit technique from the source. And I've been practicing, a lot on that. But man, to be honest, I feel like that's not the strongest point of my game. I've had some success at AGF, but man, against the real good leg lock guys, man, I'm still, I'm one of those guys. I get caught all the time, and but I'm always working to get better. So if you see me attacking leg locks in tournaments, maybe it's not because I feel like that's the most impressive part of my game, but I feel like I'm trying to get to where I can pull that off in a tournament. So, sometimes you get lucky in tournaments. Sometimes you execute looks like you're pretty good, but man, I feel like really, what I feel like I'm the best at is Kimuras and Kimura traps and taking the back. So
what kind of inspired you with that? Did you just kind of develop it on your own, or was there like a source out there?
I'm always inspired by the guys who are the best, the best guys in the world, and seeing what they're doing. And just, so I think I saw Kimura Trap back at ADCC, back when I think David Avalon did it to Tarsus Humphreys. He did a Kimura Trap to the back, and I was like, wow, what was that? I've never seen it before. And I saw it. I didn't really realize he had a system, right? And the next couple years, I saw like Keenan Cornelius doing it, and when he was still at Lloyd Irvin's, he was using it a lot. And he was, spinning into the back from using a Kimura, going into arm locks, and I was like, man, what is this guy doing? And then that's when David Avalon and Lloyd Irvin put out that DVD, and they had like a system. And I bought that system, the Kimura Trap system. And ever since then, man, that's been my thing. It's ever since like blue belt. So, I'm kind of, there's been like a progression through all the belts of like what I've really been, I'm good at. I probably started at blue belt being good at half guard. Like that was my closed guard, half guard. Half guard, I was one of my things I was really good at. But then I got into butterfly guard and X guard through Marcelo, because that's another idol that I was always watching him and seeing what he was doing. So I got through butterfly and X guard. I started getting really good at that. And then that's when, about purple belt, I started finding the Kimura Trap. And I started trying to do fancy things that I thought were cool from my other idols, like Hoffa Mendez. So I started Berimbolo and things like that. I started Kimura Trap and Berimbolo, and started learning the systems behind those two areas. And then, as I started going up through brown belt, less Berimbolos and more, I started getting heavy into pressure passing. That was like my next huge thing. And eventually I've always stuck with Kimuras and Kimura Traps. That's been my bread and butter. And then eventually, like I said, I got the Leglocks. So it's funny how you start to realize you suck. That's always been what's made me pick the next thing, is what do I suck at, or where do I need to adapt something into I need to plug a hole somewhere. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's like, let me ask you this, kind of like the last two topics together. Is there any crossover or places that you blend your takedown game into your leg attack game? That's been something that I'm increasingly fascinated by.
Oh, man, yeah. So, I have so many idols. Gary Tonin is literally my favorite grappler. He's my most entertaining guy. And I love the way he blends wrestling into leg locks and into into any dangerous position he tries to mix his takedowns with. So, yeah, I'm all about flowing from – so I kind of – the way I think about jiu-jitsu is the way Danaher kind of presents jiu-jitsu, having like little small systems based on the different areas of the body, and learning to blend those systems together. So I'm huge on finding the transitions between takedowns to leg attacks, or leg attacks to the back, or leg attacks to the Kimura, or any upper body submission, or going from the back to the front headlock, So that's a huge part of the way I think about jiu-jitsu, and the way I try to teach to my students is how to not only just learn the individual systems and learn how to control them in themselves and flow through them, but how to connect them. So that's, the game of mixing wrestling and the leg locks I'm super fascinated by. I'm trying to get better at it right now. I kind of I use kind of like a double leg to pull into the legs into ashi.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good bread and butter technique I already have. But man, Gary has a few that I learned at a seminar with him from like being in a Russian tie or Russian tying somebody and then jumping to the legs, like super creative stuff like that. So yeah, I love all that stuff.
I want to say I've seen you, like what made me kind of remark on that. I want to say I've seen you do like a video or an instructional where you were doing like a reverse Sumo Geisha or something like that.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite techniques. Yeah. So yeah, if you just do a Sumo Geisha, like get a Russian tie in the gi or no gi and use that lat grip to Sumo Geisha over your shoulder, your leg's already in between their legs, so you can go right into ashi or not ashi, into the honey hole or into reverse ashi. So you're already in the knee bar, that position. So yeah, man, that's one of my favorite techniques that's one actually of my favorite takedowns is that Sumo Geisha.
Yeah, I've been doing that like the whole time I've been training. You know, have you heard of Bryce Mitchell?
Yeah.
Thug Nasty.
Yeah.
So he's from Arkansas. I've known him forever. But one of his coaches is, I think he's a 3rd degree black belt now, Willie McLaughlin. He's actually training. He moved to Wynne, Arkansas, and trains with Burge Franks. I don't know if you know who Burge is.
No,
but
I don't know.
he's man, I've met him a couple of times just in passing. But I remember when Carlino and I one time went to Memphis. We were trying to stop at his gym. It's over near Memphis, but we just couldn't make it work. But Willie trains with Burge now, and like, dude, Willie McLaughlin, he's on my podcast. He was teaching that. He's taught that Sumo Geisha to me several ways over the years. But he will do it as a counter to the single leg.
Yeah, perfect time to do it. Yeah, I love it. I do it to my students all the time. That's one of the best ways to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, but man, that is like I remember when I discovered that it went to the entanglements. I was like,
yes. Yeah, man, it's a smooth technique, and man, I love it because I can do it to anybody of any size and weight. So sometimes it's hard to battle big guys for takedowns.
Mm-hmm.
If they grab at your collar, like if they grab a grip on your collar and you kind of use a Russian tie motion and grab their sleeve in front of your chest and reach around their back and grab the belt or the lat with the other arm, and you're kind of in that like really deep side on position, man, you do that Sumo Geisha right there, and man, they have no defense, and if you do it right, they won't land on you. So man, that's one of my favorite techniques for people of all sizes.
Yeah. You know, Mike, are there any other things like you've crossed over like that? Like what do you think the next wave's going to be? Like we're talking about kind of catching these waves or maybe even spotting them early, like James Partridge. I was talking to him the other day. I'm like, dude, I know I saw you doing Leglocks before they were cool, you know, yeah. But like what's next? Or like what, you know,
what is next?
Neck cranks, face chokes.
Man, dude, neck cranks, they're kind of already in style, man. It's one of those things. Now you don't see a lot of people always sinking in rear naked chokes now. It's a lot of like face crank, you know, turning the chin with your wrist and just cranking, and you get a tap, they tap. It's, you know, it's a legit technique. So man, what is the next wave? It's hard to, I'm not a trend spotter, man. I'm not the best trend spotter, but
me either. You know, honestly, like what you were saying, that's always been my logic. Like, hey, I suck at this, or I see it and it speaks to me, and I go down the rabbit hole.
Man, do you know what? Oh, sorry, I thought of one just now. Man, something that I'm starting to get into that maybe I'm already behind the trend in the gi is the matrix and the K guard. You know what the matrix back take is?
A little bit. Like I'm familiar with the K guard a little bit.
Maybe that's a trend. If you don't know about it, maybe it is a new up and coming thing, but it's a really cool back take that I'm not good at. I've seen people do, and it looks pretty effective. I'm not sure. I gotta try it. So, man, some of these young up and coming competitors, I'm gonna start watching what they're doing, and if they're doing something cool, maybe that's the next thing.
So, the gym you came out of, were they like strictly jiu-jitsu, MMA? Have you done other arts or anything other than jiu-jitsu?
I used to I've fought Muay Thai a few times. So I've trained Muay Thai coming up through the ranks. We have a Muay Thai coach at our gym right now. I don't train it a lot right now. I'm just so, exhausted through doing jiu-jitsu and doing weightlifting. I'd weightlift outside. So, I don't do a whole lot of Muay Thai, but I try to jump in there. I got a bag at the house and stuff. But, man, I trained Muay Thai as a blue. When I started doing MMA when I first got into jiu-jitsu after about a year, around the time I was a blue belt, I did MMA and trained Muay Thai, did a few Muay Thai fights. But, man, Muay Thai, MMA is just tough lifestyle, man. So I wasn't super committed to doing that. And there's no way to just be competitive in a MMA if you're not 100% into it. At least I don't think it's smart to just dabble in MMA. So I did it a few times and did some Muay Thai fights, but my passion's always been the ground. But I need to get, to be honest, I've been thinking about getting back into maybe even trying boxing a little bit. That's kind of one of the things I don't know if I want to ever box in a competition, but man, just learning the sweet science and learning the footwork, man, I'm super interested in all the technicalities and just watching high level boxers. I love watching like breakdowns on YouTube and on the technique and the footwork and watching Floyd Mayweather's defense. So, man, I'd like to learn it. I need to maybe get into that one day.
Man, along the lines of the same things we're talking about with jiu-jitsu in 2013, because I came from the gym I originally trained at did MMA. And then they added the gi after I'd been there, like probably 18 months. They're like, oh, we're going to do a BJJ program, guys. You're going to wear the uniform. And we just did MMA, no-gi, and Muay Thai. And I was just like, extra rolling one night a week. Fantastic. I'll be there. Give me one of your outfits, please. So I started training the gi, but I just stayed with MMA the whole time and sort of definitely integrated it and tried to integrate it into like everything I was doing. But man, one thing I've become increasingly fascinated with would be the next thing. What are your thoughts on combat jiu-jitsu? Right? Like I integrated boxing in 2013 was the moral of that story for the same reasons. But what are your thoughts on like slapping people in the ears while you're doing jiu-jitsu to them?
Man, I like it. It's I love watching it. I would never probably personally compete in it just because, I don't want to get slapped in I guess we could. I mean, I don't know. If I was getting paid money, I would do something like that. But I love watching it. I think it's awesome. I train it at the gym sometimes. We'll have training weeks or little blocks of training sessions where we'll slap each other, and the guys love it. You gotta train against strikes somehow, and if you don't want everybody in MMA gloves, if punching each other, slaps are the next best thing. So man, it makes you realize that you're vulnerable, so we do train it at the gym. But I don't know, I love watching the competitions. It's super entertaining. Me, myself competing, I'm not sure if I'll ever do it. But I love watching. I love watching James and Hunter.
Oh man,
throw down and slap people. It's hilarious. I love it.
That combat jiu-jitsu worlds that James just fought on. He said he was just on a podcast last week. I think his episode comes out tomorrow or Thursday. But he said that was like the best payday he had ever got. Was fighting combat jiu-jitsu worlds. And then like one thing I remarked is like those dudes had evolved, I guess, through just the short amount of time there's been combat jiu-jitsu into like doing things I've never even seen in ground and pound, right? So they would like be like down and would like do a technique where they would be kind of like coming up to their knee and then go into the slap with that forward momentum. And I just thought it was so creative. They were like doing transitions into the slap and to set up like, wow.
People are creative, man. They're going to come up with a good way to generate enough force to slap the piss out of you. Whatever. It's so, I love it. I love the innovation. And man, it's funny that I'm gonna have to find a scenario where I see that. That'd be hilarious to watch. I got to pay more attention.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to chat with you about, man, and this not to like make any controversial statements or anything, because I did definitely make a controversial statement when this happened. But you were involved in a high-profile jiu-jitsu match in my home state with a
Oh,
guy,
yeah.
which, honestly, like I commented on something. I was like, I think this dude, in hindsight, it's like, I mean, honestly, like I was really put out by the behavior of the other athlete, right? Because man, I heard him. I was sitting there watching it from across, but I heard him scream, saw him hit the mat and stuff, and I was like, this dude should be banned for life if he's gonna act that way. Is what I said online, and he saw me say that. Like I've never talked to him. Probably will watch this podcast. I don't know, but whatever. You were involved in this match where this dude refused to tap to your sub.
Yeah, man.
Then you were nice. Just go ahead and tell the story if you don't mind.
Yeah, man. Okay, so if you want to watch the video, it's guy refuses to tap to leg lock on YouTube, and it's got I don't know, over 50,000 views. It's got a ton of views. It's like the only YouTube video I have that has anywhere near that many views. It's hilarious. But so I went and competed at AGF and was in an expert division, and I go against this guy, and we shake hands. I pull immediately. I think into the match, I like pulled into a double leg into a heel hook. I like dropped him to the floor and put him in a heel hook. And right when I grabbed the heel hook, I felt his ankle pop. And so I feel the ankle break or whatever, something breaks. And I thought that was going to be the end of the match. So I look at the guy, and he just looks at me and shakes his head. He's like, nope, nope. And he doesn't tap. So yeah, if you're gonna watch, watch. So I pull into a heel hook, and he just kind of says he's not gonna tap. So from then on, I was like, oh no, what's going on?
And that's never happened to you before in any other match.
No. So I got him down right here. I got the heel hook. It popped right there. And I look at him. I'm like, nope. He's like, nope. So he refuses. So I start cranking on it again, and it's already kind of loose. It's looser already. Like it wasn't as tight as it was. So I popped and it already felt weird. And I keep cranking. Look, I'm still cranking on it. And the guy
wants to move that leg to the outside.
So I decide to bail on it, and the match continues. And eventually, you'll see it takes a little while to get to, but I ended up putting him in a few different other submissions. I had him in an arm bar that he wouldn't tap to. I had him in a triangle. We go out of bounds, and I get him in a toe hold finally. And I'm cranking this toe hold, and his ankle is like loose. It's completely like I can feel the play in his ankle, and it's just folding over. And he refuses to tap. He just screams, and the ref has to stop the match. And he gets angry. He like acts like he's mad about the result and like punches the mat. So it was a really weird thing to be a part of. And
see, you going from like, I love this. I remarked on this when you were doing it, how you have the leg still in, but you're going for the arm bar. And when the arm bar doesn't work, you go back to the leg.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like a 50-50 arm bar type of a thing.
I like that.
And he's not tapping. I like put it under my armpit and everything, and he just refuses to tap. And I let it go because I was like, I got to choke him. I was like, I have to choke this guy. So put him in a choke, and he pulls me out of bounds. They stop the match. And man, it was wild. I've never had a person not like, it's almost like he was refusing to admit that he was losing. And maybe if you were
which is just not jujitsu, man. That's what turned me off about this. And it's not sports. Like this was unsportsmanlike conduct. Yeah. That was my problem.
And right here, he can't even stand up. I was kind of like, don't I win if he can't stand up? I was like, come on, man. Like I figured it was over. And they make us, it's wild. They make us keep going. And
which I guess there's not a policy in place because I know how they don't even want the ref stopping the fight now.
Yeah, it was weird. I don't know if they changed the policy or not after this. Like, Well, I think a scream is a verbal tap. They have to stop it if you scream, and he
Mm-hmm.
screams on the next. I get him in a toe hold here in a second, and yeah, man, it's and it was really weird because he was saying that he didn't want to tap in front of his kids, which was another really weird thing.
Yeah, I get that. He, he fought. I like that. That's that double you were talking about, huh? He kind of
Oh
shot in and fell back.
yeah, that's a reliable entry there, and it's pretty simple to pull off. And a little X guard sweep, and then
Is that
here's
the
the
same leg you were on earlier?
yeah, same exact leg. Look, and then I'm like, it's so folded over at this point. He's
Oh.
just screaming, and yeah, it is wild. But man, he's a tough guy. I saw him not.
See that?
He just doesn't like to tap to things, and sometimes he gets hurt, sometimes he doesn't. But
Yeah, unfortunate. But yeah, that I thought you handled that extremely well. As in terms of just being a good sport, dude. I didn't see you get angry or upset or like it was maybe some confusion.
yeah, it's trying not to get mad. But man, it was a little frustrating. But hey, I guess it's up to me to make people tap, give them a better reason to tap, or maybe guys like that. Sometimes you just got to go for the choke. Man, that's a good reason, or that's a good example on if you're just fighting. If you were in a fight with somebody and they don't want to tap and they're just gonna keep fighting, you have to find a way to get to a choke. You know what I mean? And especially in a self-defense scenario, like I can imagine. I remember in the match, I was getting tired. I was like, okay, this guy's he is refusing to tap to anything, and I'm throwing the kitchen sink at him, trying to end, because I felt like I could end the match at any moment. So I'm throwing everything at him. And man, if it was like a 20-minute match and he was like, if he was on drugs or in the streets or whatever, you never know what people are on. And man, you could be in trouble if you were only going for joint locks. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Maybe if you really injured him extremely bad with the joint lock, you could disable him. But man, the choke is the king.
Yeah. Man, that is a great point. One thing like we've been actually going through, how Omar French does a systems class at his gym?
Yeah.
So we started doing that. We're actually working the Danaher leg lock stuff right now, and we're on the breaking, the key skill number 6, breaking.
Nice.
And one thing about that's like we just talked about this last class was one of the principles of breaking is the follow through, right? And that's the thing that if you would have had to follow through, you could. Yeah. Like that's something psychologically that is so hard to train of like swinging a baseball bat basically through someone's leg with your breaking mechanic.
If I would have had better
train that.
Yeah, that would have been maybe a game changer because people don't like feeling their knees explode. You know what I mean? And I did only get his ankle, so I mean that's what I'm getting at. I'm not the best at the heel hooks, but usually, man, if me personally, if my ankle pops as loud as it did, because it was very audible, it was very loud. If my ankle pops like that, I was like, we're an AGF. It's man, I'm just gonna tap, but not everyone's. Some people are gangsters, man. They don't tap.
For real. Yeah. I mean, that dude is tough. He's grappled one of my dudes in no-gi before. And my guy, so I know this one guy who's a purple belt. His name's Braden Anthony. He's from Memphis. And he thinks that the cloverleaf submission is bullshit. Like, he's like, no, and I cannot tap him with it. He'll just I just turn my toes like that and it does not work. But my guy had him in a cloverleaf and was doing that same dude, the Hightower guy, and just could not tap him. He ended up winning the match on points or something. But that dude would not tap to a joint line. I've trained with people like that. It's
it's funny.
You choke me out. That's the only way it's going to end.
I always giggle at the training partners that are like that were willing to die on the mats. I have a few younger guys that we train with. They just you can choke them so hard for so long, and they just take it, and then eventually they tap. But man, it's always funny after you let go. You're like, man, you refuse to tap.
Yeah, it is. It's I just like, I don't understand. Like, cause man, you know, you and I both, I think we're probably like, oh, well, we got to run our academy next week after this event. So like, I'm always kind of cautious of like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna be able to walk on that now because I've had my ankle popped one really good time in a tournament. And it was just like, I kept going for a second and then I was like, that really hurts bad. I'm going to go ahead and tap. I tapped like 4 seconds after the pop.
Ooh.
And I was just like, and I went through a decision-making process. Like, do I want to keep going? It was a kind of a fluke deal. It was an ankle lock, but it kind of turned into like the heel hook that hurts your ankle. Like how he had it in there. It was just kind of weird. My heel was popped out a little bit, but it wasn't illegal or anything. We were doing, it was the purple belt qualifier in Dallas that AGF had a few years back, right? That's what, it was like the final where everybody had the final match. I think, who is that guy that won? I want to say that he fought Clay in the finals. That was when Clay had like that white purple belt.
Oh, yeah. Clay belts are always tarnished.
Yeah. Man, who was that guy? I want to say his name was like Alex Lane. He won that AGF qualifier 2 times in a row. Really good. I can't remember. Do you have any recollection of that?
I think I remember. I think that name sounds familiar. Man, I was
From Texas.
I was just getting really into competing at purple belt. I like took a break for some reason for like a year or two during blue belt. I didn't compete a lot as a blue belt, but
you can see that.
Yeah. Man, yeah, I remember seeing that tournament, and I remember being like, man, I'd like to jump into that thing, but yeah, man, I remember thinking that was a tough tournament. That was a really tough tournament.
Yeah. Well, man, Matt, I really, dude, I appreciate you coming and just talking jiu-jitsu with me, man. You know, it's awesome getting to talk with people that own academies and share a lot of the same interest and. Man, I love it's not like the primary show I do on my podcast, but this is like my 40th jiu-jitsu only episode. I've had 70 Life Unraveled episodes where I just joke around like I don't burden my my guests with martial arts very much in those episodes. So, well, man, I really appreciate you coming on. I'll share over a link for Kendall's spats and stuff, and man, hopefully we'll see you out there again soon on the tournament circuit, or you know, I'm sure our paths will cross again someday.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thanks for having me on, brother.
All right, bro. I'll shoot you a link when I get this all edited up.
Cool. Thanks,
all right, man. Have a great day.
You too.